What's up, guys? I hope you guys are having an awesome day. Today isn't so awesome for me. The weather's pretty crappy, really windy and really cold outside. So really can't go fishing and really can't do a video outside today because, well, it's pretty windy and the audio would be terrible. That being said, we're in here in the garage and we're talking about what does a bite feel like. Now, clear disclosure, you don't get to feel all bites. Now, you do get to feel quite a few of them, and some bites you just happen to see, notice, or maybe even have a gut feeling that you're having a bite. You don't always get to see them, you don't always get to feel them. So I'm going to help you guys determine when you have a bite and when you may not. Hey guys, right now is a great time to subscribe to the channel. Hit that notification bell. We're doing great things here on Clearwater Fishing. We're a growing voice on YouTube, and we're here to teach you guys how to catch more fish, whether you're learning through my failures or you're learning through my successes. Either way, you're going to be learning how to catch more fish. All right guys, I got my rod, my reel, and my bait ready to help illustrate what a bite might feel like. So let's start from the top. We're going to cast, and then the bait's going to fall in the water. This is going to be the first opportunity for a fish to bite your bait. As the bait is falling through the water, you're going to have to be able to recognize what a bite's going to be. So let's start with the very first one. Let's say the bite happens and you can feel it. Well, typically, this bite is going to feel like a few twitches coming from the end of your rod. And you're going to notice it if you're paying attention to your rod tip. You're like, I didn't cause those twitches. I didn't twitch my wrist to make that action. So you're going to know, hey, there's a fish there. Let's set the hook, let's lay the wood to him, and let's bring him in. That's your very first bite. The next bites are less noticeable and you're not going to feel them. So say I cast, and if I'm doing this over here, ooh, that's a funny looking duck over there. Oh wait, that's not a duck, that's a swan. I'm not going to notice these bites. So you have to be paying attention. So your bait's falling through the water, and then your line gets extra slack. Or your line moves to the left, or your line moves to the right. Now notice in all three of those situations, the line does something. So if I'm watching my line, I'm going to know what happened at the bait. That tells me that there's a fish on the end, and I'm going to set the hook, I'm going to tear his face off, and I'm going to get him in the boat. Well, I may not tear his face off, but I'm going to let him know I mean business, and then I'm going to get him in the boat, and I'm going to weigh him, and then I'm going to show you guys on my channel. You know, that kind of thing. But anyways, you have to be able to identify those bites as well. And I'm going to be honest with you, when you first cast out there, that's when most of your bites are going to occur on that initial fall. Now, that doesn't mean every bite's going to be that way, but most bites will be that way, at least in my experience, and it also depends on the type of fishing you do as well. So, if you fish with a crankbait, well, obviously you don't have a fall. But that brings me to moving baits. I have a swim bait here. I also have a spinner bait. And, well, we got a little crankbait here. Crankbait is not going to sink. You're not going to have that sinking action. At best, on the initial cast for a crankbait, I'll make that cast. I'll make that cast. At best, when you first make a cast, a fish is going to blow up on it when it hits the water because you threw it near a brush and it made him mad. After that, we make our cast. Let's just pretend we made our cast. Boom, we made a cast. And I'm over here reeling it in. Reeling it in. And these bites are going to be really, really easy to feel. Because most of the time they're going to about knock it out of your hand. Because you're reeling it in and you're already going to have momentum of that bait coming in. So just about any direction that they take the bait, you're going to be able to feel it. And you're going to feel not just the little pulls or little tugs like we did on the fall. They're going to be pretty massive and you're going to notice them. Sometimes, depending on the time of year and how aggressive the fish are, they could just about knock it out of your hand. But there's other times where the fish is attacking from a different direction. So say they're attacking from this way and coming toward us, well, they're going to get that bait from behind and going to bring it to us. And as you're reeling in this bait, you're going to notice, hey, I got a whole bunch of slack all of a sudden, and I don't know why. Well, I know there's other causes for a line to go slack, like if your boat moves towards your bait or something like that. And you're just going to have some self-awareness around that, of where your boat is versus your bait and the bank and that kind of thing. But as you're reeling it in and you see a lot of slack happen, well, it's pretty likely that a fish has attacked it and started bringing it to you. So you're going to want to reel up the slack as fast as you can and set the hook on that fish. Now, depending on the bait, you're not going to set the hook the same way, but you're going to want to set the hook however you need to set the hook on that fish. So far we've covered the falling of a bait and we've covered the moving of a bait. There's one other type of bite from a moving bait, and that's the line can also move side to side, which is similar to what happens on the fall. You can be reeling it in and you can see the bait kind of move in at the same rate that you're reeling it in, but it's going sideways. Now this bite, however, is not very likely. It does happen. I've had it happen to me a few times. And you need to be aware of it. Hey, I'm reeling this in and all of a sudden my bait's moving this way when it was coming straight to me. It does happen, and it's not always going to knock the slack out of it. It may just come in at the same rate that you were reeling in anyways. Covered the fall, we've covered moving baits. Now let's cover bottom baits. So I'm up here, I'm fishing my bottom bait. It's already fell to the bottom and I'm hopping it on the bottom. We're going to have to be line watchers again. So we have that bait lying on the bottom with no action that we're putting to it. We have to watch the line to see if the fish does something to our bait. Whether it's a couple twitches of the line, whether the line moves left or moves right, or it moves toward us and gives us more slack. We have to be line watchers and pay attention to that. All the same principles as when the bait's falling. It all still applies when you're no longer putting any pressure on the bait. Now when you're putting pressure on the bait and you hop it a couple times, well, you have a few scenarios here. It could hop freely. If it hops freely, okay, you don't have a fish on there. If you hop it a couple times and it doesn't really move, well, you could be hung up on something. You could be hung up on a log. You could be hung up on a rock. You could be hung up in some grass. It all depends on where you're fishing and how you're fishing. And it does take a little bit of self-awareness to know, hey, that I'm probably stuck on a log or I'm stuck on some grass. It also takes a little bit of practice to know what these things feel like. So a log that's been in the water quite some time may feel mushy and may not give when you give it a little pop. A rock, a little more difficult, they're not going to move. But you're going to feel some roughness as you drag across rocks, and if you get hung in the middle or between two rocks and get it wedged in, well, you're going to know what that feels like when it happens because it's not going to move. But you know that you are dragging through rocks because you know what that feels like. And grass, usually you can pop a bait free of grass depending on the line and the weight of the rod that you have. You can pop it out and okay, you're free. But there's always that chance. Now you're hung up on something and you're not quite sure what it is. And it's real early on in your career or early in your hobby. You really don't know exactly what's there. You don't know what a log feels like. You don't know what grass feels like. So the safest scenario here is to go ahead and set the hook. You don't have to give it a whole lot, but you can give it a really aggressive pop, and that's going to be enough to set most hooks. Now, if you're fishing a big old flipping stick with a flipping weight and all that, that's a totally different scenario. But for most baits, like this little swim bait here, you know, a solid, I'm gonna reel this in so I don't knock myself out with a bait here. A solid, it doesn't have to be just a little pop with a wrist. And you'll know if it's a fish or if you're popping it over some grass or a log or something. But if you don't really know, set the hook. If you don't know, just set the hook. Hook sets are free. It's a motto I like to follow. Hook sets are free. Baits are not free. You may lose a bait, but you have an opportunity to catch a fish, and it could be a big fish. You never know what's on the other end of your line. It could be the world record, it could be your PB, or it could be the only fish you catch that day. So set the hook if you're unsure if there is a bite on the other end. So we're going to continue to hop it on the bottom, and say we're doing big hops. Big hops. Boom, I got a big hop. Let's try that again. Boom, big hop. Boom, big hop. It's almost the same principle as casting it out there in the first fall. You got a big hop, and then the bait's got to fall. Line watching again. You got a line watch. Twitch, twitch, set the hook. Oh, it's moving to the left, set the hook. Moving to the right, set the hook. It's coming at me, set the hook. You gotta set the hook. Okay guys, I hope this video helped you guys out on realizing what a bite's gonna feel like, and also that there's many other bites than you just feel. And if you learned anything from this video, make sure you smash that like button. But just like always, until next time, get out there and go catch you some fish.